Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of Conversations with Camden and our YouTube Live. So thank you for joining us. I want to start tonight by letting you know what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about tomorrow's leaders, and we're going to hear from some of those leaders tonight as we have a panel of 3 cadets here with us, and they'll talk about their life here at Camden and maybe how their lives were before Camden, after Camden, and then most importantly, answer your questions. So if you do have questions about Camden, please make sure you utilize the chat over here on YouTube, or you can use any social media platforms. Just use the hashtag Camden Military. So just type your question, hashtag Camden Military. All right, as far as kicking things off, I want to go with introductions. And I want to start with Matt Trapp. So Matt, how about introduce yourself and what your role is here at Camden?
Hey everybody, so my name is Matt Trapp. I work here in the admissions department, and I've been here about 7 years here at Camden. I started out as a teacher and a coach, been in admissions about the last 4 years, so I can kind of speak to the teaching side of things, the athletic side of things, and of course the admission side of things. So from Camden, been here in Camden my whole life, so looking forward to great sessions tonight to get some questions answered and talk to some of our cadets.
All right, and then we're going to go over to our cadets, and we'll start with the first one. Cadet Page, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us your name and where you're from, and maybe how long you've been here at CMA.
Yes, sir. Hi, I'm Cadet Page. I've been here for 1 year. This is my first year. I'm from Irmo, South Carolina. And here, I absolutely love it here. It's an awesome place. And I've learned a lot.
All right, thanks. And then next we will switch over to Cadet Aronov.
Hello there, I'm Cadet Aronov, and I'm from New York City, and this is my first year in Camden.
All right, and actually Cadet Aronov's brother went here, so he's sort of a legacy cadet. And then myself, I'm Casey Robinson. I'm the Dean of Enrollment and Administration here at Camden. And I'm probably the old timer of the group. I've been here for 27 plus years, so a long time. So I can pretty much answer any questions that you throw at us as well. And we're having some technical difficulties with one of our cadets, but I just saw him pop in. Let's see if we're fixed. Ty, can you hear me?
All good.
All right. So Ty, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us your name, where you're from, and how long you've been here.
I am Ty DeVolt. I am from Brentwood, Tennessee, and I have been at CMA for 4 years now.
All right. Thanks, Ty. Okay, guys, we're going to start off this tonight by, I want to talk about Camden, what we are, what we stand for. There's a lot of stereotypes out there about what a military school is. Some people think it's a reform school. Others think it's a boot camp. But I want to hear from these cadets tonight, their description of Camden Military, because even though there's maybe a little over 20 military schools around the country, we all have our own niche. We're all a little different. And I want you to hear straight from the students what CMA is like. So we will start off first with Cadet Page. I want you, Noah, to tell us about Camden as you're talking to another student. How would you describe, as he knew nothing about military school? Maybe his parents threw it on him 5 minutes before this YouTube Live started. Describe Camden Military Academy to him.
Yes, sir. Camden Military is a really great place. It's a place where it's a real brotherhood. All of us know each other. We live with each other, and we're able to fellowship with each other. It's not a stereotypical military school, as most would think. It has military aspects to it, as in we wear uniforms, we march to class, and we have really high standards that are to be kept, like keeping our rooms clean, having our uniform up to standard, having our hair up to standard. It really just helps you be a better person, and helps really set you up for life. Without it, I wouldn't really be able to prosper. I really love it here, and it has taught me a lot on how to become a better person, how to really become a man, and how to live a Christ-like life. It's a really great place.
All right, appreciate that. And now we'll go to Cadet Aronov. Tell us from again, a student, if you're talking to a student who knows nothing about Camden Military, what would you say?
That's a good question. At first, I would say it's a scary place, but after after like living here and like hanging out and making new friends here, it's honestly just a wonderful place and like just a place to build character, to get discipline that not a lot of people like know these days. And honestly, it's just like a place to help you build yourself for your future.
All right, good stuff. I do want to ask a question. We'll go back to Cadet Page real quick and just, Noah, what would you say to someone who says, I don't want to go there. It's a prison. It's a boot camp. What's your response to that?
I definitely would not say it's a boot camp. I would say it's more like you think of a fun summer camp with school involved. Here, there's so many different amenities. I mean, you could do sports, and it's so convenient because you're right there. Sports happen right after school. You have a lot more time to practice sports. I personally am involved in lacrosse. Best team I've ever been a part of, and I've been part of quite a few teams. It's an amazing experience. Life in the barracks it's different than anything you'll ever know. I mean, these guys become your brothers. They love to be with you. And you can like really share experiences. Not like you can with other friends. It's a very separate kind of friendship you have with these guys than you do, I guess, in the outside civilian world.
All right. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We were talking to the students then, so prospective students. And now I'm going to ask Cadet DeVolt to address parents who may be watching who have no idea what Camden Military is about or what we do here. Ty, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I definitely want to start off and say it's a big leap. My parents had to talk to me about it, and they actually made a decision to send me here in 8th grade before I committed for high school. And I spent 8th grade, and as we can see, I definitely committed for high school. As a parent, and if I was talking to a parent about this, I would say that this school provides things that being home cannot provide. No matter how strict and good my parents are some days, they can't hold me to the same expectations all the time. I don't have as many opportunities to go succeed. But at Camden, I have all the resources and opportunities and expectations all in one place. My sports, my academics, becoming a leader, it all happens in one place. And I think that's just a super good thing for me as a young man. And I've seen it happen to all of my friends and the great things they've gone on to do. As my 4 years here, I've seen plenty of graduates go succeed to do amazing things because they were tested and tried and supported for all those years.
All right. And Mac, you're in admissions as well. So do you ever face that question? When people visit the campus, do you ever get faced with the questions, how military is it? Is it a boot camp? How do you respond?
Yeah, all the time. I think that's probably the biggest question, both from the parents and the students. And it's kind of funny sitting here watching these guys talk because, I was involved with their admissions process and I know that those thoughts came to their mind as well. But yeah, I mean, I always get the question, how military is military school? Or, are you guys a boot camp? And no, we're not. So we're not a boot camp. We're not, screaming and yelling and 1,000 push-ups and things like that. But it's more the military aspect and some of the things that the military tries to instill in young men. So, honor, integrity, self-discipline, taking pride in yourself, working with others. That's the biggest thing. I know these guys many a time, even tonight, have mentioned it already. But, brotherhood and camaraderie and being in an environment that you're supporting each other, you're helping each other. And it's kind of neat to see. We've got some first-year cadets on here and then some students, DeVolt, who's been here for several years, and just to see the development in that. But yeah, I get that question a lot, and I always share one of the same stories because I just think it's funny is that, I was doing a tour with a family one time, and the student looked up to me and he said, "Sir, there's a lot less barbed wire here than I thought." And I was like, "Well, buddy, there's actually no barbed wire here." So definitely not a prison, definitely not boot camp, but no, just a place where young men can really develop. And I think Ty DeVolt spoke to that a lot when he said that everything's here. All the opportunities, sports, athletics, being in a boarding school environment, you've got it all in one place.
All right. Thank you, Matt. All right, now, good. We've got some questions coming in, so I want to jump over to the questions in the chat. And just want to remind everyone, you can always ask your questions here in the chat or post on any social media platforms using the hashtag Camden Military, and we will get to those questions tonight. Someone wants the fellowship of the cadets to be described. Now, I think Noah touched on the brotherhood earlier, but Aronoff, can you tell us a little bit more about the brotherhood? Is it hard to make friends here? How tight are you guys?
So when you first come in, everyone wants to know about you. Like, everyone wants to find out where you're from. You're the new kid on the block. Like, everyone really wants to find out where you're from, why you got sent here. And honestly, it's really not that hard to make friends, especially for when you play sports. You get closer with the other cadets that are from other companies. Like, I'm from Bannon Staff Company, and Noah Page is from Alpha Company, and we met through playing lacrosse together. And honestly, we built our friendship up and up, and we're just really good friends. I would also say that everyone's really kind. And also in your classes, you're in there with other companies, so you can also talk to new people in there. And honestly, it's just a bond that not a lot of people can have. And you're all in the same place and from different parts of the world. And you guys just talk about all your experiences.
All right, good stuff. Okay, another question coming from the chat. What is the punishment like? Is there a hazing, or is any of that type of stuff tolerated? DeVolt, we'll throw that one over to you.
All right, so this is probably a great question for me with my leadership role. So most of our punishments actually fit the crime around here. So screw up with your phone, you lose your phone for a week, right? Don't do your homework, go to detention. Make a mess of your room, you're going to be cleaning your room after school. Make a mess of the bathroom, you're going to be cleaning the bathroom. So most of our punishments around here, kind of fit the crime, which I think is the most appropriate way to punish someone. And the goal is not to punish you. The goal is just to make us understand that when we do something wrong, there are consequences in life. And now the general punishment for miscellaneous things is the pad. And the pad is marching in the afternoons from about 4 o'clock to about 5 to 5:15. And you'll get anywhere, you get 1 day of pad at a time. They're not just going to slam you the 100 days. It's only 1 day at a time. So if you make a mistake on Monday, you're going to march Monday afternoon, and then you're good. We'll move on. So it's not 1,000 push-ups. It's not endless marching. You make a mistake that day, either you do one of the specialized punishments that fits the crime, or you go march pad for an hour in the afternoon, and then you're good.
All right. Thanks, Ty. I mean, I could not have answered that better myself, so thanks for that. All right, now I want to kind of move into the leadership part of Camden Military, because that is a big part of what we do in preparing these guys to be leaders of tomorrow. And Paige, we'll go back to you. Tell us a little bit, maybe something you've done since you've been at Camden. It's your first year here. Somehow, what type of leadership role have you maybe been placed into, and have you ever had to lead others by example?
Yes, sir. I have been placed in a leadership role as the religious non-commissioned officer. So I assist the religious officer here, R.O. Fuller, and I assist the chaplain here, Chaplain Hunter. I was placed in a leadership role earlier in this year as a staff sergeant. So I had leadership over a group of people, 7 to 8 cadets, which it was great. It was a great time. Recently, I got ranked up to master sergeant. So I am a higher up inside the company, and I take role over all religious activities. Whenever we have religious trips, whenever we do chapel, I lead chapel, and I do a lot of things to help benefit my company, as well as the battalion when it comes to any religious trips.
All right. Thank you for that. And same question for Aronov. Is there a time, Aronov, you're a first year student or cadet. Tell us a time that maybe you led by example, that you've been put in a position where others had to look up to you.
I would say my squad leader position in band and staff company. I was a corporal, and I was in charge of 5 cadets, and we basically had to be in charge of fallouts, which is just cleaning the barracks and making sure they look nice, and hopefully not doing them again for a free time. And for formations, I would have to lead my squad, like to be like at proper dress, make sure that they're like standing right, not fooling around, and make sure that they're all accountable for that formation.
Thank you for that. And Ty, I'm going to give you another question since you're the old guy as far as cadets go. Tell to us, I've heard both cadets say, they were in charge of, and I think you even said that in one of your previous answers, I led a group of cadets, or I'm in charge of a group of cadets. What does that mean exactly? Do the cadets run the school, or the adults running the school? And what type of responsibilities does a cadet leader have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have, obviously being here for 4 years, gone through several leadership positions, advancing with more and more cadets under me. And currently I serve as Alpha Company's first sergeant, so I run the day-to-day operations for Alpha Company. So from the beginning of the day, most of my job is to look out for the well-being and the attendance of the cadets to all their daily functions. So I'm the one who wakes them up in the morning. I'm the one who takes them to class. I take them to meals. I make sure everyone is accounted for, whether they're going to sports, on furlough, I just make sure I know where everyone's at. And I am advised by my TAC officer, who are the adults on campus, who are all U.S. Army retired. And he is my mentor and my advisor and the final say-so of how my company runs. And he helps me with things like if I have a cadet who's made a major infraction and I am not sure how far I need to, make corrections on that cadet. The TAC officer can call a parent, or they can, make more major decisions. But when it comes to just the daily operation of our company within cadet responsibilities, it's nothing that any cadet can't handle after they learn for a while. And even though I have 58 cadets under me, it's very easy because I have all these other great leaders that are in the other positions that do their job very well. And that makes the companies run very smoothly. There's lots of mutual respect, and we can go through our day seamlessly with minimal intervention from the staff, but the staff is always still there.
Right. Yeah. The way I've kind of explained it in the past is maybe, the cadets run the day to day, but the adults have the final say and kind of oversee everything that's going on to make sure, there's not an abuse of power going on or something like that. We've had students come in the past and, I say they have little man syndrome or Napoleon complex, where they get a little power hungry or something, and we have to, kind of correct that part as well.
Yeah, and Casey, I did want to add something. I actually saw a question come into the chat that I think is fairly fitting for both of you guys talking about rank. Somebody mentioned, how do you rank up? And that's a question that I get a lot from, students coming in that ask me. They'll see a student with some rank on his uniform, and they're like, well, how can I get that? Or the big one is, how can I get the sword? That just seems to be the appeal. But it's as simple as doing what you need to do. And I think that shows in both DeVolt and Paige. Paige is a first-year student, but yet look at what he's accomplished in just 1 year. And, of course, DeVolt, he's been here for some time and achieved a higher position. But, Paige, I kind of want to go back and ask you a question on that. But what were some of the things that you did as a first-year student to rank up, to get that rank? What were some of the things that you tried to do and maybe you had seen others doing to get that rank?
Right. I have 100% been blessed by Christ to be able to get my rank. Especially as a first year, it's extremely difficult to do what I did. But it's completely possible. There's other cadets that are here that have been ranked up really, really quickly as well. I would say the best advice is definitely to take it slowly. Think about what you're going to say and what your actions are going to be. And if a leader tells you what to do, do it. It's pretty simple knowledge, but as well, you go above what they want you to do. If they tell you to clean the toilets, clean the toilets and the sinks and the mirrors. Do more, because even though it seems like it's not noticed, maybe they won't say anything. It's definitely noticed. The tax noticed it. For me, it was my captain that noticed it. He wanted me to get ranked up to sergeant because of how well I was doing. I never got pad, never got stood up during meals. It was a constant obedience and immediate action whenever they tell me to do something. And as soon as he told me, hey, you should probably get sergeant, he told my TAC as well. My TAC said, good idea. I was also blessed to get my position, religious NCO, as a first year. Typically, it's second or third year that will get that position. But chaplain, he saw my character. He saw how I went about things, and my TACs highly recommended me because of what I did in the company, how I dealt with things well, how I didn't run my mouth, how I didn't say anything dumb, and it really benefited me. So yeah, I would say definitely listen to your leadership. That's the biggest, most important advice I could give.
Yeah, and I think that's a great answer. I've heard a lot of these guys say it, and it's kind of something that we tell them is, to learn how to be a leader and to learn how to lead, you first have to learn how to follow. So you've got to learn how to do what you need to do, and with that comes rank. And Paige, I don't mean to bombard you, but another good question that you've kind of mentioned some things about it, and I think it was picked up on in the chat. But do you have to be a Christian to go to Camden Military Academy? And the answer to that is no, you don't. So we do have a heavy emphasis on the faith component to our school. If you've done any research into us, we do believe in developing the entirety of the young man, and the spirituality portion of that is very important to us. So we do want students to find their faith or strengthen their faith while they're here. But like Aaron and I said earlier, we've got guys from all over the world. So a lot of different cultural backgrounds and religious backgrounds and different walks of life. So Paige, kind of talk about what that looks like. We have mandatory chapel, but we also have a prayer room for students of other religions. But since you are in a religious position here at Camden Military, kind of talk about what that looks like for cadets on the faith side.
Right. Yes, sir. We all have freedom of religion. There's Buddhists that I've met here. There's Jews that I've met here. Multiple ethnicities and different religions of people that I've met here. And they all have the option to be able to practice their religion, pray how they want, and talk to their own God. The reason we stand on Christianity here, though, is because of the U.S. being founded on Christianity and how much we've prospered from it. And the teachings of the Bible. The teachings of the Bible tell us how to be a better person, and it doesn't ever teach you how to be a bad person. All of it's how to benefit in your day-to-day life, and how to benefit with other people and fellowship with other people. So that's what we're based on. It's never required or pushed onto anybody. Nobody will ever tell you you have to be a Christian. They will always advise you, though. It's a great idea to be a Christian, but it will never be pushed on you. There's multiple options. There's Catholic church off campus on Sundays. You can talk to the headmaster or commandant if you are a different religion, and they will absolutely accommodate you for that.
All right, good stuff. Another question come in the chat, and Mac, I'm going to throw this one back at you. But can you attend Camden if you have any disabilities?
Yes. So I just want to make sure I cover all my bases with this, because we've seen it all. So as far as academic disabilities, we've seen students who have ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, various learning challenges that we can accommodate. A lot of the things that we do here already check the boxes that we see on certain IEPs and 504 plans. So if your son does have one of those learning disabilities, there's a lot of things that we can do here at Camden to help accommodate that, especially with just the stuff we implement on a daily basis. So our classes are a lot shorter. We've got smaller class sizes. We have some students take oral tests instead of written tests, and more time on tests. But also on the other side of that, and I'm just going to mention this because it may be something that might benefit somebody else, but we've also had students here who have to go to physical therapy for physical disabilities, or they have I believe in Casey's time, he's seen students that, were either amputees or something like that. So we do physical and some of those learning disabilities as well.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And now, Cadet Aronoff, we're going to talk to you a bit about the question on the chat asked, do you think Camden would be a good choice for a child that is having trouble in school and or at home? But what I want you to kind of tell us about is, maybe I heard you say this earlier, is why I went back to you. You said everyone wants to know why you got sent here. And I hear that a lot, that people get sent here. So Aronoff, why did you get sent here?
Well, the reason I got sent here, is because of my legacy of my older brother coming to the school. So it's people are just curious at the school. That's the only reason I said, why did you get sent here? People are just curious of if you did anything bad, especially your chain of command, which is your COC, people that are in charge of you in your company. They just want to know if you potentially might be a problem to the company and to see what to expect from you.
Yeah. And DeVolt, how about you? What did you do to get sent here?
Oh, so I would say actually my academics weren't too bad, but I would also say that my focus and my relationship with my parents was at an all-time low right before I got sent to Camden. But and I my first semester at Camden, my academics shot up, but I hardly talked to my parents for 3 months, and then now I call one of my parents, if not both of them, every single day. And I've grown a lot. Even though I grew in distance from them, I've actually grown a lot closer to my parents over my time at Camden. Within 8 months of being at Camden, I went from not wanting to talk to them to calling them every day. Can't wait to go home on furlough. Can't wait for them to come visit me at parades. So it's definitely been a big change.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. So, and one thing I want to throw on, I was joking with these guys about being sent here, but we do have students that do have some behavioral problems. Nothing too severe. We're not going to take young men who have been in trouble with the police and have been on probation and things like that. But we have guys who, maybe want to argue that the sky is green just to have something to argue about. Maybe just have a general lack of respect for authority, things like that. And then, school challenges, absolutely. That's kind of the biggest reason people search for alternatives. Just maybe they're not doing as well as they could be doing in public school or private day school. Maybe not making the best friend choices, hanging out with not the most desirable people. And, in some cases, again, we have kids here from over 40 states and 8 countries. If you live in a large city, it might be best, maybe it's not safe at the school, or there's lots of drugs there, that type thing. So this is a good change of environment for a lot of young men, and it puts them in a kind of a, neutral zone. We don't live in a bubble. We still have our issues here at Camden. I wish I could say we were perfect, but we're not. But you won't find anywhere that is. But we do drug test students. We do dismiss students. We don't suspend. You don't get to go home for 5 days and have a vacation because you got in trouble. We're going to actually have discipline that we talked about earlier, and punishment, where there's marching the pad. And we do communicate all that with the parents, though. So if your son does get in trouble while he's here, we're going to let you know. But so just want to let you guys know, yes, we do have students that, have had issues at home. We have other students that had no issues. But one question that Mac or myself will ask every cadet during the interview process is what, Mac?
Are you willing to abide by our rules and do the best you can here at Camden Military?
I taught him well. And so, that's one thing the student has to agree to. If a student ever tells us, oh, heck no, or worse, they may say, then, we're going to have to revisit, maybe have another interview at a later time or something like that. So you don't have to be excited to attend, but you have to have some buy-in. You have to be, willing to give it a shot, is all I tell people. If you're willing to tell me that you'll give it a shot, we're willing to give you a shot to come in and have a new, fresh start. All right, Aronoff, this should be a question right up your alley. What's the best meal at CMA, and what is the worst meal at CMA?
Ooh. That's actually a really good question. My personal favorite is Friday's lunch, which is the chicken wings. Pretty decent meal.
All right.
But the worst meal, I forgot what it was called, but it's we have a running joke. It's called dog food. It's really not. It's edible. But
A mystery meat type thing.
yeah, mystery meat. But yeah, we have that meal. It's really not that bad, but people just don't. They have like a different feeling for it, especially from like different types of like parts of the country and like different parts of the world. They're not used to the southern food that they have here, like barbecues. Not a lot of people.
Fried pork chops,
Oh yeah, fried
collard
pork.
greens, good stuff. You know.
Yeah.
That's what you want to call it.
That's how you've been here for 4 years. So why don't you tell us what's the best meal you've ever had, and then what's your worst meal?
My favorite is actually the biscuits and gravy on Wednesday mornings. I kind of a bit of a little bit obsessed with those. And then right back to what Aronoff was saying, the mystery meat. But I make all the jokes in the world about the mystery meat and get seconds every time. So I don't. So
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. How do you prepare cadets for the military? And also, how are cadets treated when returning and refusing or not completing a task? So, Matt, why don't you take the first part of that question about the military? What percentage of our guys go in the military? How do we prepare them for that? And then I'll get one of the cadets to answer the second part.
Yeah, that's a great question. Get that question a lot too. Being a military school, how many guys go into the military, and is that your primary focus? So not really. No, I mean, academic, we're a college prep school. So most of our guys are graduating. They're going on to 4-year state-supported schools. We've had guys go to USC and UNC, and we've got a student at Vanderbilt and Texas A&M and places like that. So very few guys actually go into the military. Most of the time when we see guys go into the military, it's a family legacy, or it's just something that they want to do. And most of those guys are actually looking at service academies as well. Usually we have 1 or 2 of our students who attend a service academy like the Naval Academy or West Point. But the good thing is I always tell guys that if you are looking at the military route, this is a great place to test those waters, because going back to what I said earlier, it's not full-on boot camp, but it does give you some acclimation to military lifestyle. And so I know that some of our guys who have gone on to those service academies or colleges with an ROTC program, they always come back and tell us that they feel more prepared for that environment. They feel like they had a little bit of a foot ahead. So not necessarily having all of our students going into the military, but if you're looking at the military, we can help you out with that. If you're looking at colleges, we can definitely help you out with that.
All right. And now for the cadets part. Sybil, what happens if you refuse to complete a task?
Okay, so like I said earlier, everything is situational and there's degrees to it. So if you don't want to, I don't know, pick up a piece of trash, we're going to get you to pick up that piece of trash, right? You're just not going to you're not going to tell an adult or one of your chain of command you're not going to pick up that piece of trash. But that's not that big of a deal. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to, even as a company first sergeant and my tag officer, wouldn't send a kid to the pad for that. Now, if you say I'm not going to chapel, then we might have some issues. But I've never actually seen a cadet try to refuse to go to chapel. And I've never even seen, nobody ever cuts class, refuses to go to class, refuses to go to meals. The cadets have understood that just show up. It's as easy as just showing up. And they understand that there's nothing better to do than just to go show up to class anyways, show up to chapel anyways, do what you're asked anyways, because there's really nothing better to do around here. Because they're not home and they can't, I can't just go get in my car and drive off campus because I don't want to go to chapel. I have nothing better to do. I show up.
All right. Good stuff. All right. And then we have a question about, has Camden grown in the past couple of years, or has it gone down in population? We've actually probably grown slightly, I would say, within the past couple of years. Very fortunate, because there are a lot of military schools. We had one closed mid-year this year, that out of state. There was a couple that closed last year at the end of school. So anyway, yeah, Camden's been very fortunate. We're in, especially being all boarding and all boys, because these schools typically, if enrollment starts to go down, they will open up to day students. They'll go co-ed and allow girls. And I always joke with these guys that girls are evil until you get to college, at least. So it's just an added distraction. And then the same with having day students. You have students that come in from just 8 to 3 and then go home, and then you leave other boarding students behind, and there's going to be a little jealousy there. Why does he get to go home and see his parents? Why does he get to go to the beach? And I'm here on campus this weekend. So we like our system being all male and all boarding, and I think a lot of parents have found they like that system as well, which is why our enrollment has increased these last couple of years. All right, let's see here. I did want to ask a question of Cadet Page. I know we've asked you some faith questions because you're the religious officer, but talk to us about some of the midweek activities students can get involved in. What goes on during those times?
Right. We have a lot of midweek activities. On Mondays during study hall, if you are on honors or deans and not on the DNF list, you're able to attend a Monday night Bible study with chaplain. It's an amazing opportunity to grow. It's filled with a bunch of guys that love the same God and that are obsessed with getting to know each other. On Wednesday nights, we have off-campus church, which is at International Praise Church of God. It's a Pentecostal church, and it's amazing. It's like a church I've never ever gone to before. It's my absolute favorite place in the world. On Friday mornings, we have FCA breakfast, which is Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We go over to a Highway 1 cafe, and we hear a message from the cadets. Every week, we have a different company do it. I think this week is Delta. They're doing a message on peace, I think it is, peace, which is where they'll find verses in the Bible and write up a speech on what peace means to them and how to be a better person with peace. There's a lot of other midweek activities, sometimes once a month, sometimes, once every couple months. We have Narrow Way, which is an amazing production of Christian plays. It's a dinner play, so they serve dinner there. It tastes amazing. And then they do a play. It's so much fun to watch. I enjoy it going every single time. But yeah, there's usually a lot of other religious trips that come up, just random trips. Recently, we just had a Winterfest, which is, I think there was 12,000 students there. It was an amazing, amazing opportunity to get to know Christ better and get to know people within the church better. I had lots of fun, and it was a great time. We also have the FCA High School Retreat, which is coming up in a couple weeks, and that's where we go with a bunch of students from other Fellowship of Christian Athletes all over the place. If there's another school, like a public school, it could be a private school. If they're enrolled in FCA, then they can come to this. It's a massive event. There'll be famous singers that sing there and big preachers that sing there. It's an amazing opportunity. Again, there's so many different things to do with Christian events. You will never be bored because there is something to do every single week.
Yeah, and Paige, kind of talking about things that you can do and get involved with, and that brought up something. We were talking about the brotherhood earlier, and I want to ask all of you guys this, but DeVold, I want to start with you. Being, coming in when you first got here, that was 8th grade, so obviously younger than most of the guys here. You've only got one grade below you. How did you really find your brotherhood with other students? How did you find support with your friends? And, how was getting over the homesickness? Being in 8th grade from Tennessee, how did you kind of make that adjustment to Camden?
Yeah, definitely. First thing I'm always going to say is when you get to Camden, you have an assigned friend. It's called your roommate. So that's pretty cool. And outside of your roommate, you have your company, and that's 50 to 60 guys you live with. And that's obviously naturally going to be a friend group you can grow with. And I was actually luckily my first year, my platoon sergeant was from my hometown. So I got a older mentor who naturally, wanted to look out for me a little extra being from the same town. and that was actually really helpful for me. And for me, I can't speak much on the homesickness thing because, like I said, me and my parents' relationship wasn't great at the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, great, I'm away from home. So I was actually pretty happy about it. But even now, actually, I think even now I miss home probably more. But I always know that this place isn't forever. Actually, I'm starting to get towards the end of my time at Camden. I'm actually starting to like already think about missing it. So no, homesickness, and I've never even like most cadets think they get freak out for 10 minutes and then they get all around all these boys, go outside and play basketball, do something, and they just quickly leaves their mind.
All right, good stuff. Now I want to talk about academics. We haven't talked about school yet, and so Noah, why don't you tell us about academics here? So first of all, let's talk about what were your grades like maybe before Camden, and then have your grades improved, and why do you think they've improved, if they have?
Yes, sir. Before Camden, I was a C average student. I think I had a 2.8 GPA. I was not running well. Coming to Camden, I am a straight A student. I have above a 4.0 GPA. And the reason being is because I promise you, they won't let you fail here. Unless you try to fail, it's extremely difficult to fail because you live here. If you're failing a class, there's tutoring after every 3 periods. So after the first 3 periods, there's tutorial, which is any class the teachers stay in for 15 minutes afterward. If you have trouble on something, you can get help from them. After school, some of the teachers stay and you can get help from them there. And then we have a dedicated study hall, which is where there's a what's it called? An AOC. An AOC is a teacher that's from one of the classes, and he will come and walk through the barracks, making sure nobody's doing anything bad or getting in trouble somehow. And he's either an English teacher, science, could be any one of them, and usually he'll be able to help you then. So the amount of opportunities that you have to succeed is just immense. There's so many different ways to succeed. There's no way you can fail unless you really try to fail.
All right, good stuff. And Aaron, how about you? What were your grades like before Camden, and then have they improved?
So my grades were like B's mainly, sometimes C's if I wasn't there for a couple of days. And now being at Camden, which the study hall definitely improved my grades. I would have to say like most of my grades are A's except for Spanish because it's kind of difficult. But I personally think that the study hall definitely helped out to get my grades up to that type of level.
All right. And then DeVolt, you're junior, so you have one more year, but have you started thinking about college, and when did Camden really start kind of preparing you and getting you in a mindset to maybe consider what's next?
Well, 8th grade. My English teacher, I'm telling you, from 8th grade and your very first day at Camden, it's a college prep school. So the teacher's goal from whenever you show up here until you graduate is to make sure that you have the best chance possible to achieve your goals outside of Camden, right? So, even in 8th grade, I was writing. My teacher took me from a kid who could write an essay that had, very basic words in it to I could write a college level essay in 8th grade because I did over and over and over again until I got it right. And I went into 9th grade being able to write essays when I was joined by because a lot of new cadets coming for freshman year, I was joined by these new cadets who had never been at Camden, and they were struggling in the first few weeks, and I was already ahead of them because I had been prepared in 8th grade. So it starts day one. And then as I've turned a junior this year, this is when it really turns up a notch. I started taking dual enrollment classes through our USC partnership, which has allowed me to earn college credit hours. I believe we have 52 available. So that's roughly a sophomore when you graduate. And I've seen lots of cadets utilize that and actually graduate in college in 2 years and get, straight into their careers. And they're super, super focused because they've been prepared and they've actually had a chance to do college work with high school level support that you can't find on a college campus.
Okay, good stuff. Now I want to talk about relationships with teachers here at Camden. Been told in the past they may be a little different relationship with a teacher here at CMA than it was at a public school. So let's go with Paige. Paige, can you describe that relationship?
Yes, sir. Relationships with the teachers here, I would say, are 100% different from any public school. They're like a serious mentor to you. You can talk to them. You talk to them with extreme respect, but they're always with you. They're like a friend to you. And they're really here for you. They really care for you. Their job is to make sure you succeed. They're not like other teachers, which are just, getting it for the money. But these guys are really getting it because they care about kids and they care about us succeeding. The classes are very small, like 8 to 10 students, and they will really help you succeed. Amazing people, every one of them, absolutely amazing people.
All right. And then my last academic question, and then we'll move on. But if you guys were on a block schedule prior to Camden, just kind of raise your hand. You know what a block schedule is? When you had 4 classes, first semesters, separate set of 4 classes. Here we operate on traditional schedule. So Ty, tell us kind of what has the 40-minute classes been beneficial to you versus the hour-and-a-half classes? Talk about some differences between the block and traditional system we have here.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the block classes for me, particularly in classes that required a lot of attention, like math, I was lost about 40 minutes in. I didn't really want to learn anymore. I was like, okay, I've done this for 40 minutes. I mean, most young men and just kids in general can't sit and learn and truly engage for more than that 40-minute period. And an hour and a half, it just felt like wasted time. But we actually have, first off, anyone worrying about transferring credits to graduate on time, our academic deans are wonderful. There's nobody who's ever had a missed graduation date because of credits and whatnot. They always get it figured out. They always get it done. And then also, we actually have a rotating schedule every day, and that actually keeps it really fresh. So you're not going to the same English class every morning at 9:30. It's going to rotate. So that actually has kept it super fresh for me. 6 40-minute classes a day on a rotating schedule. And that helps our athletes out a lot too. Athletes tend to sometimes, miss class in the afternoon for a sporting event. And when they travel, and you're not missing the same class every time you have a sporting event. So that actually helps you keep up your academics really well versus having the same schedule every single day. Just keeps it fresh and helps with athletes.
All right, good stuff. Now, I think we've had some more come in on the chat over here. And let's see. Oh, did the TAC officers yell at you and cuss you out? Well, let's hope they don't cuss you out. But do you get yelled at while you're here at CMA? And what is that like? Let's see. We'll go Aronoff.
Well, TAC officers are all different in different companies. Me personally, I did get yelled at if I did something like wrong, or if I did something to maybe make my TAC officer question my knowledge. But they don't typically yell at you. Like if you made a small mistake, it's whatever. They're just going to tell you just do better and a way to prevent that to ever happen again. But yeah, they don't really want to yell at you. They're more like a father figure, I would have to say. Me personally, I think they're like one of a father figure, and just they're mainly there just to help you out.
Funny story about the yelling part. We one of my first tours here at CMA, I was showing a family around and kind of nervous because it was one of my first tours I was given, and I had a TAC officer who was just yelling and screaming, had the veins popping out in all the right spots and stuff. And I thought, oh goodness, this family, there's no way they're going to come to CMA. And so we finished the tour. We came back into the administration building and gave them a few minutes to talk. And I went in the room and they said, well, sir, we really like what we saw. We just have one question. And I was like, uh-oh, here we go. And they said, if we sign him up, can he be in that gentleman's company that was yelling and screaming over on the front porch? And I was like, absolutely. That's an easy do. But come to find out, what he was yelling about is he had only like 7-8 cadets out of his company that was on the deans and honors list. So he was chewing them out over academics. And kind of scary guy, because he's a big retired ex-military guy, and who looked like he was in the middle of maybe a Vietnam flashback or something, and PTSD reaction. But I think the boys got the point, and mom and dad didn't have to fuss. The TAC officer will take the heat, so he'll be the one to fuss. So I tell everyone, you'll probably get yelled at while you're at CMA. Hopefully not individually, but as a group, yeah, probably so. Because you're only as strong as your weakest link, and if someone does something boneheaded that deserves for someone to raise their voice, the voice will be raised. So,
yeah,
all right.
I think that actually helps out with the next question too. I saw it in the chat over there. Somebody asked about the bullying tolerance, and so that is one thing that will get you yelled at. I can promise you that. So we got a very low tolerance for any kind of bullying. So if somebody is bullying another student, then yeah, you're going to get yelled at for that, because that's one thing where teamwork is a big crucial part of that. So low tolerance for bullying. Actually, Casey can attest to this as well. Our headmaster is actually an expert in anti-bullying. So he's gone to other schools and done seminars and things like that. So we've got pretty good reporting policy, and if events arise, we nip it in the bud pretty quickly. So yeah, very low tolerance for that. We don't want cadets making any other cadets experience anything less than what it needs to be. So I did see a really good question come into the chat, and I think I want to be the one to pitch this to you guys. But how do you think that you have grown since you've been here? And I know for Paige and Aaron, that one's probably harder to answer. So DeVolt, I'll go to you first on that one. But in your time here from 8th grade DeVolt to 1 year left, how do you think you've grown? What aspects have you grown most in?
Well, first off, about 80 pounds and 5 inches. But besides that, there's things I do here that there is nothing close to that I would have done at home. The leadership in my company, I would have never gotten these experiences. There are some goals that I never would have even dreamed up if I hadn't come to this school. My original plan was, I think I'm just going to go to high school, finish high school, and maybe go to college and figure it out, right? And now I have a very clear goal of what I want to do with my life. I have aspirations. I have a clear path to get there. So I think I have grown as a leader, as a person of character, and just in seeing all these different people and just meeting all these different people and doing all these different events. I've had roommates. Those are the things I've grown from the most, is roommates. My roommates have taught me how to be a teammate, how to be kind, how to be patient. I've had roommates from, Tennessee, 5 minutes down the road, my roommate was from Tennessee, and I've had a roommate from Spain. So I have learned how to deal with different people, how to understand different people, how to, just overall be a good person. So that's just something that I've learned a lot at Camden, is just how to navigate through different situations that I would never have thrown at me at home.
All right.
And Aaron, what about you? I mean, coming from your first year and been here for this time, what's some of the growth that you've seen?
Definitely my discipline and like the way I talk to people. I wouldn't be so upstanding. I wouldn't be at certain positions. Like when you're talking to like a superior person, like a tactical officer or a person with higher rank, you have to get at parade rest and make sure that like you're calling them sir or by their proper rank. And honestly, it just taught me like a way to communicate with people on a different level than I am. And honestly, just a way to be more respectful with others around me. And I think it's just honestly a great lesson that the school has taught me.
Awesome. Quick question I saw on the chat is do we have women teachers here? And we do have a couple, but by far majority are men. And we like that because we feel like that makes the they're more relatable to the cadets. You know, all those men have been teenage boys at one point and have dealt with some of the same issues and struggles and short attention spans and girls and all that stuff. So it's good. And as one of the cadets said earlier, those teachers serve as mentors for the guys. So, you know, the TAC officer, I would say, probably is the main mentor while you're here. But, you know, really you have an academy full of grown men, adults here who have a lot of, you know, life experience that they can share with these young men. All right, guys, we're going to move towards the end. So if you have any additional questions, please get them in hashtag Camden Military, or just ask them here in the chat and we'll get right on them. I do see a mom said, what percentage of cadets are there coming for academics and chose to be there? So Mac, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I would say that most of our students, it's academics that bring them to Camden Military. I think Casey mentioned something earlier, you know, coming from an environment that is just not working, rather that's the bigger class sizes, you know, could be in a situation where the school itself is not a great place for the student to be. But usually it's the environment that is not working. And then once we get the student here, that change of environment really helps. So a lot of academic struggles that we see coming to us. Like the cadets mentioned earlier, we've got a lot of support set in place for them to succeed academically. And then the other question to that was, how many cadets choose to be here or want to come here? I could probably count on one hand how many cadets, you know, this was their idea. They were the main driving force behind it. But like always, they do have to be willing to attend. So most of the time when we get a little bit of buy-in from the student, that's going to make all the difference, because I can tell you this, and I'm sure these guys can attest to it as well. A teenage boy doesn't really know that he needs a more structured environment until he's in it. And then all of a sudden he starts really getting all of the success out of that, because he's willing to put some effort into it, and then he's going to get some good stuff out of it.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I haven't been here so long doing this. I think boys love structure and they love competition. And here at Camden, we have a lot of both of those. And it's a place where they just thrive, given all that we have. All right, guys, a piece of advice. What would you say to a student who is nervous about coming to Camden? And most guys are nervous. That first day is a big step. I remember when Aronov walked in, that even though his brother had been here, I saw him at registration and he looked like a deer caught in headlights. So Aronov, what would you say to a student coming to Camden, or maybe something that you wish you would have known prior to getting here?
Don't be nervous about making friends. I would say that would be the biggest one, because at first I was like, I didn't know who I was going to relate to. I didn't know who, like, I thought everyone was going to be against me, especially for my brother being there. And I thought they were just going to make fun of me for it. But honestly, a lot more people respected me, because some of the cadets that had my brother when he was here are still in the school to this day, which is 4 years now. So they were in 8th grade and now they are in their senior year. And they're just really surprised to see like the next generation, basically. And just to see me. And honestly, that just brought a lot more people to my door.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm probably the one that makes the most fun of you, right? With your brother. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up with this last question, and I want all three of you to answer. So all three of you pay attention to this one. I wanted to ask you, as you look back at yourself before Camden and you see yourself now, or what you're becoming now, what are you most proud of? What's something that you've achieved maybe at Camden that you couldn't have achieved elsewhere? Paige, we'll start with you.
Yes, sir. I have found a lot of different things that have benefited me from my first day here and before here, now coming here. I think absolutely the first thing would be my faith. My faith has grown tremendously. Reason being, I live around it. I go to every religious event that I possibly can. That's my job here. It's grown from, mid-level to the highest level. It's an amazing experience. There's that. My academics have grown tremendously. My respect for authority has grown like no other. It's amazing how much respect you gain for people when you see they're in a leadership position, because you can see I could be there one time, or I could be there at some point. So it gets you to think, I want to be there. So if I want to get there, I need to do the right thing. If I don't do the right thing, I won't get there. So that's really what gets you to start thinking as an adult and as a leader, because you want that role. So you want to go get that role, which is, I would say, one of the best parts about being here.
All right. Thank you. And Aronov, what's something you've accomplished in your short time here that you're most proud of?
I would have to say being more social with people. Back in New York, after I was done with school, after like I would just go straight home, do my homework, and probably play some video games and probably pass out. I think being more social with the people around me, I think that definitely benefited me, and it's definitely a way to get more connections. And personally, I feel that talking to more people, like I finally found like what type of person I am, what my type of group of people are, and how to like just live.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot when your confidence grows, you can spread your wings a little bit and become your own person when you're away from home and away from your big brother, maybe. So yeah. All right. DeVolt, we'll close it with you. What's something you've accomplished here at Camden that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I've gone through definitely a lot of phases of accomplishments in 4 years. But I see the number one thing that I would say is willingness to step up, whether that be to lead a group of people, willingness to step up and go join a sports team, even though I may not be comfortable in that sport, willingness to help a cadet out, willingness to be kind to someone, willingness to really do anything, willingness to try something new, willingness to take the risk. I think Camden has allowed me to build the confidence in myself, confidence in my competence. That's something my old tech would always say, confidence in your competence. And that's something Camden has really delivered for me, that I believe that I am able to achieve great things because I am competent and I am disciplined and I have structure and I have a basis and I have skills that I've built up over these 4 years to go achieve college, to go achieve my military aspirations, and to lead my peers. So that's number one achievement, I would definitely say.
All right. And lastly, I want to remind everyone to visit us here on campus. We have an open house coming up, I believe March 20th, and then another one April 17th. Those will be morning times, I think 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. You can check the website to get the details for each of those. You will have the opportunity to tour the campus, see classes in action, talk to some of the students. Maybe some of the ones you see here will be around as well. So, be sure to plan that campus visit. If the open house dates do not work for you, feel free to visit anytime. Just give us a call and Mac or myself will arrange an appointment for you to be here on campus to see what Camden's really like. And then also Mac and I will be traveling. Mac, tell us coming and when.
Yeah, so we're going to be traveling around coming up. I myself will be down in Charleston, South Carolina. Casey is going to take off towards Florida. We'll also be in Charlotte and Raleigh, so we're going to visit the other Carolina. But yeah, we'll be around, and we'd love to meet you guys in person at one of those events. It's a good place to kind of meet, get some more information, and then have that. So virtual is great. We've also got some of those coming up, but we'd love to meet with you guys in person as well.
All right. And that will do it for us tonight. So again, I want to thank everybody for watching this edition of Conversations with Camden. Guys, thank you for being here tonight and taking time out of your schedule to share your thoughts with all the viewers. So, and Mac, as always, thank you. All right. We'll see you next time. And guys, don't forget, come visit us. Have a good night.